Welcome to this tutorial video, which will introduce you to the eDIN network processor's web pages. We're connected up to an eDIN network processor, and its IP address has been entered into a web browser. Here you can see the main page, from which we can control our lighting scenes, we can adjust our lighting levels, we can configure the modules that are on our eDIN network, we can monitor the energy usage, and we can set up the network processor. Let's start by setting up our hardware. We click on Configuration. We configure eDIN by adding our output modules, such as dimmers, relays or ballast controllers, and our input modules, such as plates, I/O modules, and other features such as timed events. Let's start off by adding a dimmer. We select the module we want from this drop-down menu, and then we click on the Add button. A window appears from which we can configure the details of this module. The naming of channels is a simple matter, but it needs to be done with some care because it will make setup much easier later on. Each channel effectively has two names. First of all, there's the name of the area that it's in, followed by a colon, and then there's the name of the circuit itself. eDIN sorts channels and scenes into areas, so even if you're doing a small system with all the channels in the same place, it's important to use the area naming method. We can also set minimum and maximum levels for channels. Now this might, for example, need to be done with CFL loads. And we can set whether a channel is switched. This, for example, may need to be done with LED loads. The wattage of the channel may also be specified. Now you don't have to do this, but it will help later on in calculating energy saving information. When we click on OK, the module is added, and you can see that eDIN has created tabs for the areas that we defined. If you want to edit channel names that you've already set up, click on this spanner icon, and you can then edit what you need to. So, let's now add a control plate to each area. It's an input module, and we select it from the list, click Add, and we name it with our area names. The options shown here define which events we're going to be using. So, for example, buttons pressed, held, released, or released after being held. There's a whole selection of toggling events, and on the back of the plates there are volt-free contact inputs, and we can trigger from them as well. Clicking OK adds the plate, and let's add another one to the other area. You'll note now that when you change between tabs, the relevant plate is shown. eDIN is tidying up the areas as we go. A scene is added to an area by clicking the Add Scene button. So it's displayed here, and scenes have names. And just like the channel names, the name is in the format of area, colon, and then the function for that scene. The scene's fade time is shown below. This is the amount of time it takes for the outputs to transition from their current levels to the target levels that we're going to define in the scene. To set a channel's target level, click next to it and drag the slider, or click and type in the level that you want. If an output isn't configured in a scene, then it will do nothing when the scene is recalled. To remove an output from a scene, click this trash can icon that's next to it. To make a copy of a scene, click this copy icon. You'll then obviously want to rename it and define the new levels in that scene. To recall a scene, press this Recall button. Or to edit the levels of a scene, press this Spanner button, and you can then adjust the channels live as you see fit. There's a Bump Down button, which will move the levels down, and a Bump Up button, which will move them up by 5%. Now that we have defined our output modules and our input devices, and we've created some scenes for the outputs to do, we can define the link between the two. To cause an input to operator scene is very simple. Simply click on the intersection between the two and select an output action. This now means that the pressing of button 1 will recall the welcome scene. So let's make the pressing of button 5 recall the all off scene. We click and select Recall from the menu. All of the edits which we're making to this configuration are saved in the internal non-volatile memory of the eDIN network processor as we go along. However, to save a copy of the configuration to the computer, we can use the Export button. Up comes a window and you right-click on the link and click Save Link As, or perhaps on your browser it's Save Target As. Up comes a window from which we can type in the file name. Click Save. And that's now been saved onto the computer. To import a configuration, click on the Import button. Then choose the file you want and click Open. From the front page we can jump to the control page, which shows us all of the areas and all of the scenes created within those areas. Clicking on a button causes that scene to be recalled. And you can see the green E logo changes colour to indicate how much energy we're using. The more green it is, the less energy we use, and you can see the current load displayed. Click on the Scene Setting button to show the scenes. Then clicking on a scene gives you a window in which you can change the levels. There's also the Bump Down and Bump Up buttons. Thank you for choosing the eDIN system and for watching this video. Next time we'll look at users. You can choose which users are allowed to edit lighting levels in which areas, and you can choose which areas they can